I'm just saying, whenever you have AirPods in and stuff, you tend to talk exponentially louder than you need to.
Are these AirPods?
No. I'm getting it closer to my face. Sorry.
Inside voices.
Okay.
So I have greasy, you can just call me greasy curls.
It's just fluffed forward. I feel like if you just
it's greasy.
Well, that
I didn't wash it.
Yeah.
I haven't washed it for a day and a half.
Why?
Because I don't need to.
But if it's greasy, you do. Oh. That's how that works.
Oh. You sound like one of those, I don't know why. It just sound like the dodos from Ice Age. The last melon.
I totally forgot about them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like after this, I want to look up a clip and just see how they sound
it's
again.
Funny. You sound more like the seagulls from Finding Nemo.
Mine.
Yeah. So how's your week?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
It's been eventful with
Cherub.
little cherub.
I thought you were about to say little turd. It's like, no, that's Uncle Alex.
She's not a little turd. I love her so much.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So last week,
Harry Potter.
we chatted about a little Harry Potter. I asked 2 questions about survival and Harry Potter.
Yes.
The questions were answered satisfactorily. They were answered
Were
good.
they to your satisfaction?
They were satisfying.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you have designated me as a topic person for today. We're kind of switching back and forth.
Yeah,
but rather than
it's more of just a platform for figuring out the way that we're operating this podcast. After 11 episodes, I figured that's probably the best time to start.
Okay.
Figuring out how to do these episodes. So every week we're switching questions. We basically have a platform for topics, and then we're branching off from there. So this week is yours.
Yes.
We've made it 11 episodes.
Have we really?
Over the course of 2 years.
Wow.
That's incredible.
We're so on it.
This is dedication to its finest. That's better than me and Jake.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Jake, but me and my brother Jake, we used to do podcasts together, and we do an episode. I think we got to like 15 episodes. So technically we got more. Maybe it was less than 15. No, we did 10. I'm sorry. Because the 10th episode was called Lucky Girl of a show we were watching. We were watching each episode of the show, which was 52 episodes. And then we were doing a podcast episode about each episode.
Yeah.
And we got to episode 10. And that was it. We haven't picked it up.
So we've made it further than that.
We've made it one episode we made it now 2 episodes. With this, it'll be 12 episodes. So
but you guys were doing those pretty consecutively though, whereas we've had these really spaced out. So I can see how with that you kind of probably got either burnt out or tired, depending on how you're doing it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It also helps to have 2 hosts that want to do it and don't get burnt out easily. Plus, we don't have 2 kids and a full-time job and all that to kind of mix between. Yeah. So anyways. So what's this topic we're talking about? I have no idea what this is going to be.
Let me pull out my phone. It can be turned into a topic, but the starting point of it is a question. But I feel like that question is kind of can lead into a topic depending on how we talk about it and answer and stuff like that. So.
Oh, drink.
Right now?
Hot cocoa.
Oh,
That's what we got today.
I thought you were telling me to take a drink.
Take a freaking drink.
Okay. Are you ready for this question?
I'm shaking to my bones.
Okay.
Is that the term? Or is it shaking in your boots? It's shaking in your boots.
Yes, it's...
I'm stupid.
I'm shaking to my bones.
Shaking to my bones. I'm chilled to my bones.
Yes. I feel like, yeah.
Just ask your
question.
question.
Shaking in your boots. Yeah, you mixed the 2. That's what you did. Okay. My question is, what has changed for you since becoming a dad? Or how has being a parent changed your mindset?
Look for part 2 next week. No, how has becoming a dad changed my mindset?
Mm-hmm. Or changed your perspective on things? Like, I don't know if you've had any revelations or just kind of epiphanies about oh.
Yes.
Or you look at the world differently, things like that.
I definitely look at the world differently. That wasn't English. I definitely look at the world differently. But the perspective changes depending on what mindset I have during the day. Mm-hmm. I cannot speak for any other dad, but being the father of a girl, I believe would probably feel differently than being the father of a boy. Mm-hmm. Now, I've said this to you before, but when you are a designated father, you have there's 2 options. You can be a man, you can be a woman. Mm-hmm. It's 2023. It's still the same as it's always been. I don't care who you are. But from a dad's perspective, you can have a boy or you can have a girl. Mm-hmm. We're starting that again.
Hyper has not done that all day, and now it decides to do that.
I'm dramatically more protective. Maybe not actively, mm-hmm. but my mindset is definitely more protective. Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
What were you doing?
I felt like I needed to burp or something, but it never came, so I was trying to move away from the mic.
Yeah, but I'm more protective. I'm more aware, I guess, of the surroundings. Mm-hmm. Because it's like being the security guard of a very. It's like being the security guard of a very precious, priceless object.
Yes.
If you have a priceless object that you are entrusted with protecting, mm-hmm. you're going to notice every single thing that goes wrong around it. And you can't always notice everything, but there was a statistic done. I don't know what made me think of this. What?
The way you just rubbed your eye, sorry.
There was a statistic done, and it's 1 in every 12 people there's something about that 12th person that's more likely to kill. They're more likely to be a murderer, or they're more likely to be somebody who's prone to do that. That's kind of thing. And
1 in 12?
I thought it was 1 in 12.
That seems awfully.
I could be totally wrong with my assessment. I don't know.
Scary.
But I remember that sticking in my head at one point, and I remember thinking, okay, so everybody's dangerous. Everybody can do stuff,
sure.
Unless you're a vegetable confined to a wheelchair. What can you do? Or a fruit. Confined to a wheelchair. Let's be all inclusive here. But you're definitely going to pay attention more to everything that's going around you. Mm-hmm. And part of me hates that. Part of me hates being on alert 24/7. Part of me is very rewarded by it. And the other part of me is just exhausted by it. Mm-hmm. It's very rewarding, but it's exhausting because mm-hmm. it's I cannot tell you how many times I've thought, I hate the idea that she sleeps on the other end of the house. Because somebody breaks in, first room they go into is her room. What do we do?
Yeah, because our front door is kind of like in the middle of our house, so you either go right or left.
Front door's in the middle of the house. You either go right or left. We're on. I'm not gonna say where we are. We're somewhere. But I don't like. We have the necessary things in place to take care of. That we have a dog. We have weapons. We have things because we're Second Amendment abiding citizens. But yeah, I pick her up when I come home from work, and I'm happy, I'm protective, I'm partly sad. And it's weird because the sad and happy kind of is combined because I'm mixed with excited too, because it's like, oh, you're growing up. Mm-hmm. You're heavier than you were last week.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, you're heavier than you were last week.
Oh, no. I was just telling my mom the other day, I'm like, I'm simultaneously excited for her to grow up. Mm-hmm. I love where she's at now. Mm-hmm. And I also miss how small she was. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, I want her to grow up, but I don't want her to. And I simultaneously want her to be a newborn, but I kind of don't, because that was the hardest thing ever. So it's like, it's so... I don't know. It's like
for me, she's in what I would call a sweet spot for me.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I think the only thing that I wish she could do is start to form sentences or just say words.
I just want to hear her laugh. I'm so excited for that to happen.
She hasn't laughed yet, and she's almost 5 months, and she hasn't laughed yet. I don't know how common that is. It might not be that uncommon, but she makes lots of little screeching sounds. Mm-hmm. She smiles every day, multiple times an hour. Like she's a little bundle of joy, but I come home and I don't know. It's weird. It's like a roller coaster. And I keep the words keep thundering in my head. Like, enjoy these moments. Mm-hmm. Because eventually you'll blink and then there'll be 12.
Right.
Blink and then there'll be 25, And it's like...
I actually just saw a TikTok earlier today, which, of course, TikTok. But it was this older lady advice to, like, any person. It was essentially live in the moment and stop saying, I wish they're out of diapers. I can't wait till they're... Mm-hmm. going to school. Like, I can't wait for them to be out of the house. It's like, just live in the moment, because then you're going to be wasting your whole life wishing something were where it's not. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to be old and be like, oh, I spent all of that time wishing something rather than just enjoying where they were in that moment and not wishing anything else, which I was like, oh, not that I don't do that, but I just feel like that's a really good perspective to have, of rather than be like, oh, I can't wait till you're older and stuff like that. It's like, just enjoy where she's at now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's exactly why I will often think to myself, like, man, I can't wait. But it's not a wishful, I wish I was there now. Yeah. It's just a, hey, I cannot.
Like, you're excited for
very excited for it. Yeah. Because I can wait. I'll have to wait. I'm made to wait.
That's how life is. You have to wait.
The clock does not bend to my will.
Time has to go by.
Time has to go by. But did I say this to you at one point? I think I was coming home from work and I was super tired. Or maybe it wasn't you.
You gotta say it for me to know.
I was just trying to think through it. But I was talking to somebody on the phone, and I was driving home from work, and I literally said, I feel like the days are long, but the years are short. Mm-hmm. Like, I look like we're gonna be we're approaching our 2nd year anniversary, and
this last year flew by. I feel like
it did, because 9 months of it was over 9 months of it, because we found out you were pregnant before anniversary.
Yeah, I said that about my pregnancy too. I'm like, every day felt like eternity, but then once I had her, I'm like, wow, that flew actually by. Seemed like it happened way too fast.
Yeah, and that's weird. That's what I look at. Like, it sort of feels like yesterday that she was born. Mm-hmm. But it's been 5 months.
Yeah, almost.
Like, how? I don't know. I feel like every parent goes through this, and if you're avoiding that mentality, I think it's better to just get in touch. What are you looking for?
I'm just sorry for the people that are looking at my screen. I can see the blue glare on the thing. I just didn't know if you wanted me to turn the TV off. Thank you. Sorry. Looking around everywhere. Anyways, what were you saying?
Just ask for it.
I apologize.
But yeah, I don't know. Every parent goes through it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But you get to kind of relive that whole feeling again once you have your next kid.
Mm-hmm. But it's like one day, whether it's the one and only kid you have or the next kid or whatnot, at some point it will be the last time you experience that for the first time.
But that's good though, because unless you're the Duggars and you're addicted to that feeling, then you're going to have as many kids as you possibly can until your organs just fall out of you.
But even for her, she had a last time.
Yeah.
That she did it for the first time with that kid. You know what I mean?
But once you give birth to a small town, you got to call it quits. You know what I mean? Like eventually the machine has to die. Like it's just done. But like we've talked about it. Like I am very comfortable having 2 kids.
Yeah.
Which means that all the happiness and the late nights and all that we've both experienced, you more than I, will have to experience all that one more time.
Right.
And I think about it now and I'm like, oh, it's too soon. I'm nowhere close ready to have another kid.
Yeah.
But I want another kid.
Sorry.
Somehow you just made that all worse. Stop touching it.
I don't know how much people can hear when I accidentally touch that, but.
That was the lightest little tap. Just because I had forgotten the last part of that question. Ask it again.
It may have just been kind of like a different way of asking it, but so yeah, what has changed for you since becoming a dad?
I just answered that.
And how has being a parent changed your mindset? So I feel like you answered more of like the last bit than the first bit. So what has changed for you since becoming a dad?
I feel like they go in tandem a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it all happened so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's been a whirlwind of events since we first met. Like you guys, if you watch the first episode, you'll know how we met. And we met on TikTok. And from the day that we met, December 28th, to the day that we got married, October 30th, was 10 months and 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So depending on the year, that's how much it would be.
Sure.
Because I think days flip-flop depending on where you're at. But I remember from the day we met to the day we got married, it was 10 months and 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very short amount of time. Very short. And there's not a day that goes by that I go, wow, that the longer I'm married to you, just because of how math works, the more I think of how short of a time that was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look back and go, oh, we've had Ilya in our hands for almost half that.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like yesterday she was born.
I know. I feel like we were also long distance, so we were apart from each other, so that made it feel entirely longer than it is.
Yes.
Versus us being with her every single day. But
I remember getting married, being together, I remember picking up from the airport when you came to where I was, and I remember how happy I was that I didn't have to ever go that long without seeing you again.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first thing I said to you was, we did it.
Mm-hmm.
That 10-month period took forever.
Yeah.
I promise you it was more than 10 months. That's how it felt.
Mm-hmm. It felt like 2 years, to be completely honest.
It felt a lot. And
that's not to be dramatic, but it did feel like a very long time.
But yeah, it felt so long. But you look back at it now and go, oh, it's like playing video games.
Yeah.
You feel like you're invested and you've been playing for 6 hours. You look back, it's been 2. It's like, what? No, I literally beat this entire game twice. Like I can't have been playing it for 2 hours. But my perspective has switched, and I think that's part of maturing.
Mm-hmm.
Maturing. But you go from, especially for men, I don't know about women, but for men, and depending on who you are and how your maturity level grows, you go from being a young, testosterone-fueled person, and depending on your situation, I'll just take me, in a matter of less than 3 years, you have a wife, property that you have to keep up with, a full-time job, a child, payments on the house.
Mm-hmm.
You have all of these responsibilities that I had never thought would ever happen in that short of a time frame.
Yeah.
Like, I can plan out my days, but even when we were first married, I was like, we can look into kids in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that's what you first told me. And
Yeah.
I was the one that was actually pushing to do it a little bit sooner because I didn't want to be 30 when we had our first kid.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just wanted to do it a little bit younger.
Yeah.
And then you were actually the one that pushed it first. You're
Yeah.
like, hey, I actually really want to do this. And I'm like, oh,
It was set on my heart to have a child. You've heard the story before. I've said it before. Have I said it before on the podcast? I'm not sure.
We might have done it in a prior one, but I'm not sure.
Anyways, I just at some point I felt very pressed to have a child, and you didn't press me. Nobody else pressed me. It was just I felt this need to say the words "I love you" to a child that, as was evident then, I didn't have, and that left a big gaping hole in my heart, and so I wanted to fill that. And
I think I said that to you not that long ago because I remember you had said that, and I'm like, how does it feel now to be able to say I love you to your child that you had wished you were able to do then, like when you had that feeling?
I think that gap is about 80% filled, because I think the satisfaction of that is the child knowing that you love them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you sit there and say I love you, that's great. There's a tangible object. There's another person you're saying that to. They have no idea that you love them, though. And I think that's
like they don't understand the concept of it yet.
Yeah, that's the satisfaction I'm talking about, because I can say I love you to a brick wall. So it doesn't know that you love, like, it doesn't care, you know what I mean? And that's exactly why I take the moments that I have now with Ilya more slowly. Like when she smiles at me, I don't know if she's smiling because she goes, I know who you are. Well, she's only doing that because she knows she recognizes me.
Right.
It's not because she thinks that I'm her dad. She doesn't understand that concept.
Yeah, we're just her people.
We're just her people.
Yeah.
And eventually she'll learn the concept of the fact that, hey, we are her parents. And I think there's more satisfaction to be learned from that and to be gained from that, which makes it even more hard, because once they can talk and make choices and decidedly disobey and disappoint and all those things, it's going to be difficult to weigh those emotions on the scale. And that's why when parents say, like, when a child says to their parents, oh, I hate you, like out of anger or whatever, like that's like one of the most detrimental things to hear from your child, because even though it's not grounded really, they're just angry. That's a super hurtful thing to hear.
Yeah.
And I've said that to my parents out of anger. Obviously I don't hate them. But I in that moment, I hated the situation that I was in, and they were the targets that I shot that at. And so as a parent, it's like you have to change the way that you perceive the world so that you can put your child in their proper place to properly manage them and guide them and raise them and teach them and do everything that you need to do with them.
Yeah.
Just so eventually they can do that all with their kids. So there's a responsibility, because if they fail, if they do something awful, if they make a decision that's just awful, then you go, well, where did we go wrong? Yeah. And eventually you have to go, well, it's just all these emotions and feelings and all that. And it's like bracing. It's like being in a line for a roller coaster that that's going to be great, but terrifying. Yeah. And I can't even explain to you how often I've thought about just the day in which, like, things like now, like she's in our care. I'm the dad, so I'm the simultaneously the leader of the house, but I'm also supposed to treat her like a woman.
Well, when she gets older, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying like as I raise her, I'm supposed to raise her like a daughter. Like raising her like a son is going to be detrimental to her because that's not her role.
Right.
Her role is not a son. If I had a son, I'd be like, okay, you need to grow up and lead your family. She needs to grow up and be the nurturer of her children. That's her goal. That should be her proper role. I'm not saying she has to have kids, but if that's a decision she makes, she needs to step up to that and actually, run after that.
Well, not to mention with her being a girl.
Yeah.
Naturally, if you have a father figure in your life, that's the first person you're going to get an impression from of what to look for if you choose to get married in a man.
So lots of cussing and smoking. That's what I do.
Rather than you having to be that figure that like raises a boy of how to lead his own family, what you're doing for her is showing her how to pick the right man for herself.
Yeah.
For him to lead her family. You know what I mean? So it's like,
but then there's that passing of the baton, and it's like, okay, I have my daughter who I've protected and kept and fed and clothed and done everything that I can. Now it's time for another man to do that to her.
Yeah.
Because that's how marriage works. And so it's like a screening process. It's like an application process. And it's like, I'm not one of those dads that says, well, if I say no, then there's just not a darn thing you can do about it.
Yeah.
They have free will. They can go off and get married in the middle of the night. They can do whatever they want. But I am the God-given protector and all these different things. And so it's a big deal to sit down with another guy who wants to marry your daughter and to talk with him about why.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this whole idea of asking blessing versus permission sort of wavers for me, because they don't need my permission.
Right. I was about to say, I don't want her to ever feel like she has to have our permission, because at the end of the day, it's ultimately her decision.
It's her decision because I can't stop her.
Right.
But it's just by that account that it's her decision. If she wants to, at least for me, I want it to be her decision. I don't want her to get married to somebody that I picked for her.
Right.
This isn't communist Russia or whatever they do there. But I would hope that my daughter has enough respect for the position that I hold to hold highly the thoughts and feelings that I have about the guy that she's with.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this is getting way off topic when it comes to, well, it's not, because we're talking about her, but I was part of a men's group at a church I was at once. And one of the meetings that they actually had the men's group in one room and the women's group in a different room. And they had the leaders of those groups switch. So the leaders of the women's group was in our group and the leaders of the men's group was in the women's group.
Oh.
And all we had to do was just talk about marriage and how it looks to be a guy and how an older woman who's been experienced in marriage, like there's criteria that these people had to meet. They had to be married and have kids and all that stuff. So they could answer the questions properly. And the catch is that the couple, the man and woman who switched, they were a married couple.
Mm-hmm.
So their answers were different because of their roles, but they were one flesh, essentially. And so the comment that I had made to this woman was, I'm not afraid of getting married because I'm not marrying the family. And she goes, well, to an extent, yes, you're not marrying the family, you're marrying her, but you are marrying into the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge distinction, because if you are marrying into the family, you have to be around them unless you make a conjoined decision that for the health and safety of yourself, you cut them out.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing things that involve those people. So it's going to be vital to continuously make decisions that are beneficial for that. So it's this mentality of going around and saying, hey, it's just me and you against the world. That has changed which this is now about me. But anyways, I just like, I'm now a father looking from the other side.
Right.
Whereas less than 3 years ago, I was on the other side looking in.
Right.
And now I'm on the inside, or rather I was on the inside looking out, and now I'm from the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm now looking at it from, okay, I was there just a couple of years ago. I was in that the mindset, and now I have to turn around and teach her and be the example and hopefully be the example of what to look for in a man.
Mm-hmm.
And that video, I think you had sent me that video. It's like, be the standard.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to look up to you, be the standard. I hope to God on high that I'm not going to be one of those dads who, in her heart of hearts, she dislikes because of how harsh she feels that I might be or whatever. Like, I don't I'll fail, obviously. I'll make decisions that are poor and maybe come across bad. But like when she wants to go out with her friends when she's 15 and I say, hey, that's probably not a good idea. I'd rather you stay home because it's 9:00, like, I'm going to be the bad guy. How willing are you to be the bad guy?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even a twinkle in my eye about being the bad guy to a daughter, and, it's like, how do you mentally just put yourself in a position where you don't feel not attacked, but you don't feel like it's a battle between you and your kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of an adult versus a child, and you have to teach the child. But there's an emotional tie there because it's your child.
Right.
So it's like all of these thoughts and all of these different perspectives and all of these different like things that flash in front of your third eye is consistently going up and down and, and all that. And it's like, that's why I just like when she's in bed, when she's asleep, 7:30, 8:00, whatever, it's like, I don't have to think about who she's going to date in 15 years. You know what I mean? And, I don't know.
It's funny that those are things that like kind of plague your mind a little bit. Cause for me, I'm like, I'm just focusing on right now. Cause right now is tough enough sometimes. And so I'm like, I don't even think about that. But going back to the whole, I love you topic that you were kind of talking about. Mm-hmm. Me and my mom were hanging out not too long ago. And I think she was driving me around. So she came and picked us up, me and Ilya. And then we were running around and shopping and kind of having like a girls' day. Mm-hmm. And we were almost back to our house. And out of nowhere, she's like, so do you get what I mean now when I say I love you? And I was like, like, it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it took me a second. I was like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, well, you're my baby girl. She's like, so when I say I love you, like, do you understand the difference now? Mm-hmm. And it hit me because I had never really thought about it before. But like, the way I love my family and my parents is different than the way I love you. Mm-hmm. Like, I love you and I'm also in love with you as my husband. Yeah. But the way I love you is entirely different on how I feel love towards Ilya.
Yeah.
And so sure. I kind of like went through that in my head of like, oh my gosh, now it's so true. Like, as a mom saying it to a daughter, it's like, hey, I love you. It's an entirely different feeling.
Yeah.
And like way to look at it. And so when my mom said that, she was like, so do you get it now? She's like, you're my baby girl. So when I say I love you, like, you can understand that feeling now. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, it was kind of like an epiphany moment, but it definitely gives you a different perspective on like, just, it's weird because it's like, you can love something, but it's like,
there's like 17 different ways to do it.
There's a million different layers to it that you've never experienced before until they're like in your hands and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's like love is based off of the reasons why you love that person. Mm-hmm. I love my dad because he's my dad, but I don't love Ilya because she's my dad. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the reasons why. And there's a lot of things tied to certain things. I love people because of the experiences I have with them. I love them because of who they are as people. I love them because of the roles they play in my life. I love them for different reasons. Like your dad. I love your dad in a similar way that I love my dad, but I love my dad on a deeper level because he's my dad.
Right.
And your dad is your dad. He
right.
has a different role. And like it's different for parents too.
Right.
The way that I love my mom is different than the way that I love my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because my dad plays a different role. He holds a different categorical authority.
Mm-hmm.
My mom holds authority for sure, but she has in some ways a deeper connection to me than my dad does.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad in some ways has a deeper connection to me than my mom does, for just the very fact of their experiences and who they are and what roles they play.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why it's like when things don't go great, or, you know, we're not having the best of days, my reaction to my dad is like, if I were to be faced with a situation that was the exact same, but it was placed on between me and my dad versus me and my mom, these situations would play out very differently in the way that we would handle it or the way that it would go about. Now, in the role of me and Elia, she disobeys, whatever. That's different because I'm her teacher. I'm the leader. I'm the one who's in charge. But if you do something that is the exact same thing that went against what I felt was right or against my wishes or whatever,
mm-hmm.
that would be handled differently because of the role you play.
Right.
And it's, I don't know, it's like...
It's just weird, like, once you step into a new role in life.
Yeah.
It's like another added layer of, like, oh, this is entirely different than
mm-hmm.
it would be in this situation, like you said. And
yeah.
it, like, makes your brain think so much harder
yeah.
about this situation and, like, how you would handle things. And it's...
Well...
I don't know, it's crazy.
I went through, let's see, 1, 2... No, I went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... I went through 5 different, I guess, maturing phases in how to love somebody or in what ways to love somebody in a matter of about 2 years. My mom and my dad, my relationship with them grew exponentially so in the last, like in 2020,
mm-hmm.
when the world was shut down and everybody's wearing masks. My brother was a different thing as well. We got closer. I met you,
mm-hmm.
and that was different because I'd never met somebody and loved them on that level and caliber, and, you know, it was sort of like puzzle pieces fitting together. And then having a daughter, loving her, you know, and make it 6, throw Shiloh in there. Loving a dog, you know, like, I don't know. It's just, it feels like so much was packed into the course of a couple of years. And I think at this point, I'm just like, I need to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And maybe that's one of the reasons why a lot of my days just feel so long, because I'll think about stuff and I'll go through the motions of feeling how I feel and just being like, it's just so much. That's why vacations exist, honestly.
Yeah.
But that answer your questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. I feel like I feel like it does so more for the women, but I almost feel like my brain's been rewired a little bit,
mm-hmm.
in the sense of, like, the way I think about things is entirely different now. Not that I'm not still like, oh, I'm 26 and I'm a wife and I have a husband and, mm-hmm. like, all these things, like, that's still all normal and the same. But, like, when it comes to her, it's like the mental load of every single thing you think about. Mm-hmm. It's like her entire well-being is in your hands. Yeah. And it's simultaneously terrifying and, like, the most honoring thing I could ever do. Yeah. You know, and absolutely. It's like, I had a moment the other day where she was asleep in my arms and I just looked at her and I was like, you're so precious. Mm-hmm. And, like, I don't know, it was just weird because it hits me every now and again. I bet you probably have this where
I've had it before.
it was the same situation, but I was just looking at her, and the other portion of that was like, I made you. Mm-hmm. Like, how the heck? Mm-hmm. It's like I always wondered our child would look like.
Yeah.
But like,
I was the incubator.
Yeah, but like the depth of like what I'm holding.
Yes.
It still boggles my mind that like babies and stuff, like, I don't know.
And what boggles my mind is how people can go through exactly what you're thinking and then go, God's not real.
I know. That's where my head goes to. I'm like, you're this fully formed thing that's, you know, half my DNA, half yours. You know, obviously the Lord created her too. I'm not negating that. Every time I say that, you're like, well, it was God. And I'm like, I know that, but she's our DNA too.
I really want to include the...
Yes. But it just... I don't know. She's just like so precious. It's just one of those things where I don't know. It literally hits me so hard in my soul. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like I can't describe how I'm feeling it. It's just one of those things where I'm like,
and that mentality that you have.
Yeah.
I don't share that. No. I mean this in a very, I think, a rightful place, because I'm not the mother. I'm not carrying her around for 9 months. I'm not doing the things that you did.
Yeah.
I was an observer. That was it. And so I don't have that connection to her that you do. I have a fatherly connection.
Right. Because I asked you that when she was born. I was like, hey, do you kind of feel connected to her? Because I had a whole 9 months of feeling pregnant, but obviously at a certain point I started to feel her move and like her patterns and all this stuff. She's a part of you. And she's
there with you all day.
Like, so like when she came out, I'm like, cool, now you're just on the outside and I can actually see you and hold you. But like I already felt you, you know, this whole time. Whereas with you, it was more of like, you said an observer, not that you couldn't feel her and stuff, but it was like you would then go about your whole day, you know, and then come home and be like, oh yeah, there's my child, and
it's
there, you know what I mean?
It took time. So, I didn't feel really a connection, quote unquote, until like a couple of weeks after.
Yeah.
Because it took time to get to that position in which I was like, okay, there's things that are happening that are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe calculated. They're just like, okay, these things are happening that should, like, I'm feeding her, I'm putting her to sleep, I'm doing this, I'm rocking her, I'm doing that. I'm doing what a dad does. And it's like I'm slowly slipping into this role, and that makes me feel more associated with her. That makes me feel more this, more that, you know? And so it came about in a different way. You know what I mean? So yeah, I you know, that's the perspective I have.
I will say though, because I know you said it took you a little bit to like fully feel a connection there, but part of what I was worried about was not that you would be distant per se, but I just wondered how long like your daddy instincts would kind of kick in. And I feel like as soon as she was born, you very quickly acted much different with her than you would with someone else's child. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like,
not my child.
I know, I'm just saying, like you said, mentally it took you a few weeks to like feel connected, but it wasn't like you were disconnected from her. You know what I mean? You were very much like, oh, I want to hold you, I want to do this, I wanted to hold,
I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ease into that more and more. Now there are some dads that immediately go, okay, I'm the dad. They slip into it. It's like an instantaneous switch.
I kind of feel like you had a natural instinct with it though, to be honest. I don't know if you felt like you did, but from what I observed, I actually felt like you were very quick to, I don't know, kind of just do that naturally. So, but, which I found very sweet. Well, that's the other thing. Like a part of like how I love you. Every day I'm like, how can I love this person more than I currently do? And then it's like you have a kid and you're like, oh my Lord. How is he like a million times more attractive? And like, how can I love him this much more now? It's like you just put a child in their hands and you're like, oh, I'm dead. I don't know.
Eventually that'll upgrade to, you know, it's attractive when your husband is the father to like a toddler.
Yeah.
Then a husband to a preteen, and then a husband to a teen, and then a husband to an adult, and then all that. And then it'll just be me carrying a chainsaw with a white shirt on. That's all you'll need.
Oh my gosh. Where did that come from?
I think it's a book I read. No. Currently, if I wear a white shirt, I look like the Michelin Man, so that's probably not going to happen.
Did the way you feel towards me change at all?
She didn't deny anything I just said.
I didn't.
That's
I'm sorry.
Very alarming.
What did you just say? My brain was thinking of that question, so what you said just completely went over my head. What did you say? I'm kind of scared now to
minutes.
know what you had said.
And we're gonna cut it off here.
No.
If you guys want to contact us, I said if I have a white shirt on right now, I'd look like the Michelin Man. She's still not denying it.
No, I'm giving you the look of disbelief of how can you say that would be true.
I don't have a mirror with me.
You're more like the Pillsbury Doughboy. No, I'm just kidding. Instead of the Michelin Man. I'm joking. You're not like that at all, I promise. Cleanse thyself. Oh, you're dripping hand sanitizer all over the floor. Don't get that in your hot chocolate. That'll taste disgusting.
I wash my hands of this. Guys, if you want to contact us, toastycoolpodcast@gmail.com.
You didn't even answer my question.
We're on TikTok as well. It's the Damons, ITSTETHEDAMONS. We post semi-regular videos there. Snippets from this episode, all that. So, email us, ask us questions.
Send us messages, comments.
We'll go from there.
So we're going to have a part 2 of this?
No, we're done. We're finished. We said everything we need to say. All right, I'll bring you my questions next week. See you guys later.